A single dad sheltered an elderly woman. Then her billionaire daughter changed his life. The old woman stood trembling in the freezing rain, her soaked clothes clinging to her frail body as passing cars splashed muddy water across the empty roadside. No one stopped, no one cared. She looked exhausted, frightened, and completely alone. Then a struggling single father, already carrying the weight of raising his little daughter, while barely keeping a roof over their heads, opened his front door and made a decision that would change both of their lives forever. He had no idea that the helpless woman standing in front of him was hiding a secret powerful enough to rewrite his future. Before we continue this unforgettable story, take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to Beyond Inspire if you believe that kindness, compassion, and second chances still exist in this world. Your support helps us bring more true-to-life inspirational stories that remind us humanity is never lost. Ethan Parker had learned long ago that life wasn't fair. 3 years earlier, his wife had lost her battle with cancer, leaving him alone with their 6-year-old daughter, Lily. Every morning before sunrise, Ethan left for construction work, and every evening he came home exhausted, only to spend the rest of the night cooking dinner, helping Lily with homework, washing clothes, and trying to hide his worries behind a tired smile. Bills piled higher every month. His old pickup truck barely started. His small farmhouse needed repairs he couldn't afford. Yet somehow, Lily never complained. She had inherited her mother's gentle heart and her father's quiet strength. On one stormy evening, Ethan was driving home after another 14-hour shift when he noticed a lonely figure standing near the abandoned bus stop outside town. Rain poured relentlessly as thunder echoed across the dark sky. The elderly woman looked confused, hugging a worn leather bag tightly against her chest. People drove past without slowing down. Ethan hesitated for only a second before pulling over. The woman looked terrified, as though she expected him to chase her away like everyone else had. Instead, Ethan offered her his old jacket and gently helped her into the truck. She thanked him with shaking hands but said very little. She only introduced herself as Margaret and quietly admitted she had nowhere safe to spend the night. Ethan knew bringing a stranger home wasn't easy, especially when he had so little himself. But as he glanced at Lily's empty child seat beside him, he remembered something his late wife always said. She believed that kindness was never measured by wealth but by willingness. That thought settled his heart. Without asking another question, he drove Margaret home. Their little farmhouse was far from perfect. Rain leaked through part of the roof. The furniture was old and mismatched. Dinner that night consisted of vegetable soup, homemade bread, and tea. Yet Margaret looked around the tiny kitchen with tears filling her eyes. She hadn't been welcomed into a home in a very long time. Lily immediately wrapped her favorite blanket around Margaret's shoulders and insisted she take her own bedroom while she slept beside her father on the couch. Ethan apologized for not having much to offer, but Margaret smiled softly and said it was the warmest home she had entered in years. The following morning, Margaret insisted on helping around the house. Despite her age, she folded laundry, cleaned dishes, and even baked fresh biscuit using an old family recipe she remembered from decades ago. Laughter slowly returned to the farmhouse. Lily adored listening to Margaret's stories about gardens, music, and the adventures she claimed to have experienced in her younger days. Days turned into a week. Margaret never asked for money. Ethan never asked unnecessary questions. Somehow, they had become an unlikely family connected not by blood but by kindness. Unbeknown to Ethan, Margaret wasn't an ordinary homeless woman. Months earlier, she had begun suffering from memory loss after a minor accident. During one confusing afternoon, she wandered away from a private rehabilitation center while visiting another city. Without identification or clear memories, she drifted from town to town. Her wealthy family had spent millions searching across the country, hiring investigators, publishing advertisements, and contacting hospitals. Yet every lead ended in disappointment. Meanwhile, Margaret slowly regained fragments of her memory while living with Ethan and Lily. One afternoon, she noticed a newspaper featuring the logo of a company she recognized. Suddenly, forgotten memories came rushing back. Her daughter, Victoria, the enormous glass headquarters, their family estate. Margaret quietly borrowed Ethan's phone and called a number she somehow still remembered. Across the country, billionaire businesswoman Victoria Lawson was in the middle of an important board meeting when her personal phone rang. The moment she heard her mother's trembling voice, everything stopped. Tears streamed down Victoria's face as years of fear disappeared in an instant. The next morning, the peaceful farmhouse was surrounded by black luxury SUVs. Neighbors gathered outside, whispering in disbelief as security teams stepped onto the property. Ethan feared something terrible had happened. Instead, a beautifully dressed woman rushed toward Margaret and embraced her tightly. Both cried uncontrollably. Only then did Ethan discover the truth. Margaret wasn't simply an elderly woman in need. She was the beloved mother of Victoria Lawson, founder and CEO of one of the country's largest real estate and technology companies, with a fortune worth billions of dollars. Victoria turned toward Ethan with eyes full of gratitude. She explained how countless people had ignored her vulnerable mother during the past several months, while one struggling father, with almost nothing, had offered everything he could. She asked Ethan why he had helped without expecting anything in return. He simply answered that if his own mother had ever been lost somewhere, he hoped someone would do exactly the same. Those words stayed with Victoria forever. A week later, Ethan received an invitation to Victoria's corporate headquarters. Believing it was merely a thank-you meeting, he wore his only suit and nervously walked into the towering glass building. Executives greeted him with unusual respect. Cameras flashed, employees applauded. Victoria stepped onto the stage before hundreds of staff members and publicly shared Ethan's story. She reminded everyone that true character revealed itself when no reward was expected. Then she surprised him. Instead of handing him a simple check, Victoria announced she had established the Parker Family Foundation in honor of Ethan's compassion. She donated enough money to fully renovate his farmhouse, create college funds for Lily, eliminate every debt he carried, and provide Ethan with leadership training before offering him a permanent position managing the company's nationwide community housing program. She explained that someone who naturally cared for strangers was exactly the kind of person her organization needed. The audience rose for a standing ovation. But Ethan's greatest reward wasn't wealth. It was watching Lily smile without worrying whether the electricity would stay on or whether dinner would be enough for tomorrow. Over the following years, Ethan transformed the housing program into one of the country's largest charitable initiatives, helping thousands of struggling families find safe homes. Victoria often credited him as the heart of the organization, while Ethan always insisted the real hero was Margaret, whose unexpected arrival reminded everyone that miracles often knock wearing ordinary clothes. Margaret spent holidays with Ethan and Lily, becoming the grandmother Lily had always wished for. Birthdays, Christmas mornings, and family dinners were no longer lonely. Two broken families had become one complete family through a single act of kindness on a rainy night. People often asked Ethan whether he ever imagined that helping one elderly stranger would lead to such an extraordinary future. He always smiled and answered that he never helped because she might be rich. He helped because she was cold, scared, and alone. Everything that happened afterward was simply life-rewarding compassion in ways no one could predict. Before we reach the end, tell us in the comments. If you had seen Margaret standing alone in that storm, what would you have done? We'd truly love to read your thoughts. As years passed, Ethan never forgot where he came from. Every winter, He personally visited homeless shelters, delivered warm meals, and reminded his team that every stranger carried a story no one else could see. His greatest lesson became the foundation's guiding principle: never judge someone's worth by their appearance, because the person standing before you today could change your life tomorrow, or perhaps you could change theirs forever. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to Beyond Inspire. Every interaction helps us continue sharing powerful stories that restore hope. Celebrate kindness and remind the world that one compassionate decision can create a lifetime of miracles. Sometimes the greatest blessings don't arrive wrapped in success or wealth. Sometimes they appear as a lonely stranger standing in the rain, waiting for one person brave enough to open the door. And in that simple act of kindness, an ordinary life can become an extraordinary legacy.